Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all here for a regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission for Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. I'd like to open the meeting at 7:30. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Ms. Collins? Mr. Hale?
Here.
Mr. Cusero?
Here.
Ms. Lalonde?
Here.
Mr. Nushai?
Here.
Mr. Sampson?
Here.
Mr. Shepard?
Here. Here.
And Mr. Solomon? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4 is approval of tonight's agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to change in tonight's agenda? Seeing no changes, I will approve it as it stands. And we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes from February 10th, 2026. That would be our last meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from February 10th, 2026.
Support. Any motion support? Is everybody happy with the minutes? Nothing to change? May I have roll call on the minutes, please?
Mr. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Cusero?
Yes.
Ms. Lalonde?
Yes.
Mr. Nushai?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Shepard?
Yes.
And Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is public discussion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to opine on anything going on this evening or anything at all? If so, can you please come to the microphone and give us your name and...
Do you mean about your proposal to rezone?
You can come up and speak to that if you'd like.
My name's Bonnie Clack. I live on Lincoln. I've lived there for 55 years. There are now, if you approve, I assume that if you rezone, you're rezoning for either apartments or condos. Is that correct?
We're not...
Because you're zoning it, you had it zoned several months ago when you first started.
For
You
some
zoned
for
it
some
for a
reason,
single family.
For some reason, we're not supposed to directly respond to you, but what you will find out is as the evening goes on, as we have discussion, we will go through a further discussion. And if you have any questions at that point in time, if you simply raise your hand, I'll open it for public again at that point.
Okay.
If we miss something that you didn't get. But a lot of this will be panned out as our conversation goes
Well,
on.
then I live on Lincoln. There's new condos or apartments above Ace Hardware. There's a humongous project scheduled for the bank. There's more condos and apartments going up across 14 Mile Road on Main. There's new multi-dwelling, whatever you call it, north of the library. This will make, if this is zoned for condos or apartments, it will make 5 complexes within 3 blocks of my house. It's going to tear up the traffic, which is already slow on Main Street. It's going to do who knows what to the infrastructure, which has always been, it's been old. We've been complaining about bad infrastructure, and I would like you to vote it down. I think we should maintain some single dwelling homes in Clawson. The way, I don't want to be, it has to be the way it always has been. But 5 within a 3-block area is getting crazy. Thank you.
And thank you. Like I said, I'll open it for public later if you have any further questions. Is there anyone else in public wishing to speak at this point in time?
Hi, Erin Redbin. Of course, I can speak later if you wish, but I'm here to make a public comment about the rezoning. I'm sure the same applicants have been before you all in the past, and it was not passed by the city council. I believe one of the reasons is because the core residential and the intent of core residential, as you know, I have also sent you an email, is not met when you're almost a half a mile north of downtown. And I do believe that you should not approve this or not recommend it. What that will do to the sprawl of the city center and downtown is not something that's intended by any master plan or any plans of the Planning Commission, as I know. So please vote no.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing no further, then I will close public discussion, and we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is a public hearing, consideration of an application for 340 North Main Street to be rezoned to core residential from office service and single family residential. And Mr. Tangieri, would you like to take the honor of talking us through this again?
Yes, thank you. Okay. That works. Yes, so most of you have been on the Planning Commission for a while and have seen this request before back in the fall. This is 340 North Main Street. It is the church more or less across the street and a little to the south. And the request is, right now it has mixed office and R2 zoning, and the request is for core residential zoning. This is the same request as before. It's 1.5 acres. The O1 zoning is along Main Street, and the R2 is in the rear. And the streets on either side are Fisher Court and Lincoln Avenue. It doesn't actually touch either of those streets because there are houses in between. This is kind of an unusual lot in that it goes back between a bunch of houses rather than being along a street. And as I said, it's presently a church. There's one driveway onto North Main with a large parking lot behind it. Zoning to the north, there's O1 along Main Street at the corner of Fisher, and then it's R2 all the way around until you get back to Main Street at the corner of Lincoln, where that is zoned CMD, Central Mixed Use. So the master plan is something that we always look at when we have a request for rezoning. So they're looking to rezone the entirety of both parcels to core residential. And the future land use map does actually designate this property as core residential. That's from last year, was when that was adopted. There is a description from the master plan that I put in the letter. I won't read the whole thing word for word. But essentially, core residential is supposed to be a kind of low intensity complement to downtown. The standards of the core residential district are shown in a table in the letter next to the standards for O1 and R2, which are the current zoning districts. So the front setback in O1 is 25 feet, same as in R2. CR district has a 20-foot front setback. There is actually the O1 doesn't have hard and fast rear and side setbacks, but the R2 does 35 feet in the rear, which is the same as the CR. And then the side setback in R2 is 5 feet 15 total when you add up both setbacks, and it's just 10 feet in the CR district. The maximum height in the O1 is 2.5 stories or 30 feet. In the R2 is 2 stories and 25 feet, and in CR it's 2 stories and 30 feet. The maximum lot coverage in O1, there isn't one. It's sort of whatever your building winds up being is what it is. And then in R2, there's a maximum lot coverage of 35%, and in CR, there's a maximum lot coverage of 40%. There are some additional standards in the CR district about building form. The current building there is set back further than would be allowed in the CR district, which basically everything has to be between 20 and 30 feet from the road in the CR district. We have a series of questions we ask when we consider a zoning map amendment, which is what a rezoning is. It's an amendment to the official zoning map. It amends your ordinance, which is part of the reason that council winds up voting on it after you make a recommendation to them. So one is the proposed zoning consistent with the master plan? And the master plan does designate this land as core residential, which is directly analogous to the core residential zoning district that's sought in the rezoning request. What other impact would the requested zoning have on public services, utilities, and natural features? So mathematically, if you just divide the land on this property into the smallest possible lots, you could put 12 single-family homes on it if it was all zoned R2. But you can't get a road in there, so obviously that's just the mathematical way that it breaks down in terms of what you could put on it. It's not developable with anywhere near that under the current zoning. Of course, there's some office development that would be possible at the front of the site at present. That, depending on what kind of office, it could be more or less traffic than residential development. If it was medical office, it would probably be a lot more. If it was like a professional office, it might be a lot less. So there's a possibility of a modest increase in traffic, but also a possibility that it's a wash based on the current zoning. So has the applicant provided evidence that the property can't be developed or used as zoned? Not as such. The split zoning designation does make a cohesive development challenging, though. There's not room to run a public street serving single-family homes into the property. Is the proposed zoning district and potential land uses compatible with surrounding uses? So the proposed zoning district is consistent with the master plan. It's designed to function as a low-intensity district for the edges of downtown. Will the proposed zoning place a burden on nearby thoroughfares? If so, how would this burden compare with the existing zoning district? So as noted, any increase above the potential traffic generation of the current zoning would be, it's kind of hard to tell a little bit because we don't necessarily know what would go in the current zoning. Like I said, medical office would likely generate a lot of traffic. A professional office would likely not generate very much at all. So it's likely that we're looking at roughly the same traffic potential here based on what the current zoning is. Could be more, it could be less. It just depends on what went into that current office zoning. Is there other land currently available for this use? There's not a lot of land for housing in Clawson because we're mostly built out. Will development of the site under proposed zoning be able to meet zoning district requirements? So development could be accomplished in compliance with CR standards. We don't have like a conceptual development to look at this point, but it's possible. Is the rezoning the best way to address the request, or could the existing zoning district be amended to add the proposed use as a permitted or special land use? So it's office and single family right now. The main thing that you can do in CR that you can't do in office and single family is attached residential units, so like townhomes essentially, or duplexes, that kind of thing. There's between the two of them, office and single family allow just about everything else that you can do in CR. One of the things that CR contemplates actually is homes converting to offices. But in general, our office district isn't meant for attached residential units, and our single-family district is meant for single-family homes. Has there been a change in circumstances and conditions since adoption of the master plan that would support the proposed change? So the master plan was adopted earlier in 2025, so a little less than a year ago. The church's closure would be the primary change in circumstance in the area since that adoption. And then finally, would granting the request result in the creation of an unplanned spot zone? And we asked 3 questions for that. They're based on some legal precedent. Is the rezoning request consistent with the master plan for this area? And it is. It's core residential on the future land use map, and it would be core residential on the zoning map. Is proposed district a logical extension of an existing zoning district in the area? So it does have that kind of fringe complement effect, but it's not adjacent to another CR district property. Would approving the request grant a special benefit to a property owner or developer? It would permit the use of the property for residential construction. Do you have any questions for me?
A couple from me. From my memory, if we do approve a change in this, it still relates to the city council, right? They still have the final word on this?
That's correct. So you make a recommendation to city council on a rezoning, and
So
then
we can
city
just recommend,
council
but they make the final decision.
makes
Yeah.
the final decision, exactly.
And I'm wondering, I don't know if this has been discussed before, how did this plot of property end up being zoned office in the front and residential in the back in the day, when there's always been a church there, as far as I can recall, and I don't recall it ever being as office space in front.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that there was a master plan in the past that just put office going up North Main when small office development was more common. And it got rezoned according to that map.
It was just the easy way to do it at the time then.
Yeah. And then a church is actually permitted use. A place of worship would be a permitted use in the R2 zoning. And well, it's actually a permitted use in the O1 zoning too. So it's
So they didn't have to.
it's compliant with the current zoning. It doesn't matter that it's split for the purposes of the church.
Yeah, so they had no problem with zoning when they put the building up. I can't remember what year that was done, in the 70s maybe?
I think it's based on the architecture. I would say 60s or 70s. Yeah.
Any other questions for Joe?
Yeah, so, I'm sorry,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. So across the street and next door with the emergency care, it's CMD.
Yes, the emergency care is CMD. Yep.
Okay. Why was that, was that considered for this parcel?
That's also my question too.
Well, so when we were doing the master plan, I think I don't think CMD actually came up, in part because CMD is a more intense district than the CR, and with this parcel going behind a bunch of homes, I think the idea
Your mic cut out, by the way.
of an apartment building.
No, your microphone cut out. It's,
I guess it's on a timer or something. But yeah, you can do mixed use or an apartment building in the CMD district, whereas in the CR district, you can't do an apartment building. You can do the attached, like townhome style development, but I think that it was just not contemplated because of the way this goes behind the houses.
okay, but, so it wasn't considered, is what you're saying?
No, it wasn't considered.
Could it be considered?
I mean, potentially.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with your microphone. It cut out again, so.
First time using the
Come on,
equipment
let's
with
be
the planning
friends.
commission, so.
Just like seeing the, being a Spartan, I like seeing the
You know what?
green,
It's got a
right? So-
flashing battery symbol on
Oh,
it, so
okay.
Oh, yeah,
that
little
might be
battery.
it.
That might be
It's protecting itself from losing its charge. I mean, theoretically it could be considered, but I think that you'd probably be considering it part of a future master plan. Thank you.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, that one's got a full battery. Yeah, because like I said, we didn't really consider putting CMD up there, and in particular into the part that goes back between the houses along.
Sure, but I'm
Lincoln
saying
and-
as far as where it's 01 now, right? The fact that, couldn't that, just the 01 portion be considered CMD and the remaining portion behind stay as residential?
I mean, it's possible. R2 is really tough in that particular location because you've got to get a road back there to serve individual lots.
But right now, it's a parking lot, right?
It is a parking lot right now, yeah.
So it's an existing nonconformity, right?
Well, the 01 and R2 both permit places of worship, so I think as an accessory to the church, the parking lot wouldn't be considered a nonconformity. It's just the parking lot for the church for permitted use.
Okay. I guess where I'm going with this is that trying to come up, just truth be told, I saw this before, right? And I already voted on it when it first came to council. And I'm just trying to come up with some other things, not to lay my cards on the table as far as where I'm going with this, because I want to ask these questions. Because I am a proponent for development, but I'm a proponent for the right development. And I don't think that this is because of the problem with the neighborhoods on the north and the south, particularly the one that's on Lincoln, that it's not adjacent to what is currently core residential or next to the city center. But again, I'm more than willing to look at what options are available for development. And that's where, again, looking at CMD, and then what that might, what options there might be at the table.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I have a question. If the back portion were to remain R2, what could ever possibly be built there with road restrictions that would still be in keeping, that was not another church or something? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what is landlocked, so what could happen? I mean, let's say a pot of money fell from the sky and all the residents that were adjacent to it had access to it. Could that area that was behind all of those different houses be split to extend their lots if they wanted to buy into something? I mean, could that, I'm just like, what could be done if you cannot build single-family homes back there?
I mean, you certainly could do that. You'd just be enlarging other lots. I mean, that's not, you might have some problems with the number of splits that are allowed under the Land Division Act. But if it's property transfers, I'm not sure if that would necessarily apply. But we'd probably have to talk to county assessing about whether or not that's possible. But it's theoretically possible, I guess.
Okay.
As far as what use could be put back there, that's not. There's not really much. Because if you look at the list of permitted uses in the R2 district, which is on page 5 of the letter, it's single-family homes and then home occupations, which happens inside a home, a family daycare home, which happens inside a home, a foster care family home, which happens inside a home. So it's all single-family homes, basically. If you look at the special land uses, there's some more stuff. Place of worship is actually a special land use. You could put a municipal building back there or a daycare, but the daycare has to be accessory to something else. It has to be accessory to a a place of worship or a school or something. So if you don't have that, you can't do the daycare. Schools, larger congregate care facilities, the 7 to 12 adult congregate care facilities can go back there, but again, that has to have a house or something that you're putting it in. So there's really just not much in terms of standalone uses that could utilize that property.
We had somebody trying to have the Napa rezone, the auto place, so that it could be rezoned so the owner could sell it. Is the church in like such bad shape that no other church would have interest in it?
I haven't been in the church, so I can't give you like a firsthand account of what the condition of the
It's been
building
vacant
is,
for
but
quite some
I
time.
have not heard good things about the condition of the church from the folks that we've talked to.
I got a question. This is the next two lots that are to the east. Aren't they landlocked now?
The next two lots to the east,
Yeah.
I believe they front on, I can actually check this. They front on Florence Street, the two to the east. Or there's like a couple of deep lots that might actually come between them, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But you don't, there's, everybody's got frontage. Yeah, there's not any landlocked lots back there.
Further questions? The limitations you're talking here on, let's say we do change this over to a CR zone. I think people are worried that we're going to throw apartment complexes and things in there. I think the limitation is it can only be 2 stories and 30 foot high, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So it's going to look like a house.
Well,
not
more
gonna-
than one house attached to each other, yeah. So, I mean, you might have four units as townhomes or something, but it's not going to be more than 2 stories, and it's not going to be
Right,
more than 30
I think
feet.
that's part of the public's concern, that we're going to put in a 3-story or 4-story apartment complex there, and I don't,
It's not.
it's not allowable. It can only go 30 foot tall. The housing is only 25 feet? It's,
The height limit in the R2 district is 25 feet, yeah.
is that the height of most houses in town?
Oh, a lot of houses in town are shorter than that. Like the kind of post-war bungalow kind of house that's only 1 story is going to be a lot shorter than that. But if you're over like across from where Shalom used to be, there's a lot of 2-story houses there that are probably in the 25-foot range.
Okay, so a 30-foot tall house is not going to overpower the housing in front of it or back of it, from your perspective and mine, I believe.
It could be potentially a little bit taller.
Yeah,
I mean, you're
it's-
going to have most likely peaked roofs.
Personally, I don't see the height being a big problem, and I don't see traffic being much of a problem. We have Main Street. We are probably going to end up tapering Main Street down to 2 lanes with a turn in the center. Traffic is traffic, but this is not, if we put housing in there, not everybody gets up and goes to work at the same time. My point is traffic will be staggered out. So I don't see that. We haven't done any traffic studies on it, but I don't see that becoming a big problem. Does anyone else have any further questions?
Just as far as, Mr. Chair, if I may, as far as, again, we're looking not at site plans, right? We're looking at what the purpose of the zoning is.
Correct.
Right? So as far as core residential, I think there was a point that was made regarding the fact that, and again, I appreciate and understand that we don't have a lot of creative spaces for residential, but at the same time, this particular zone allows for businesses. So if we have development that goes in through to the back of these properties that are on Fisher and on Lincoln, potentially for businesses, that I think is not overuse, that's not the right word, but the allowed potential for those properties and what they use could be more high intense than what we may be looking at. I guess my point is that if you're just residential, that's one thing. But the fact that we allow businesses there through this rezoning concerns me.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
with the CR district, there would be businesses allowed to operate there?
Well, that's what we have in our ordinance, right?
There are special land uses in the CR district that allow, like, you'd make basically put an office in, you know, and it's the idea was you could convert a home to an office.
Yeah, that's my point, right? So, and I think it was, let me see if I can pull it up again.
It's page 6.
Yeah, there's a comment regarding the type. Yeah, thriving downtowns, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Thriving downtowns include opportunities for a variety of housing types, and Clawson single-family residential is a predominant housing type. And while some higher-density housing options are desirable in the downtown core and core fringe, there are a few areas where the single-family home remains an integral part of the downtown. It is envisioned in the short term that residential uses will continue, and the city may wish to consider allowing low-intensity non-residential uses to encourage a transition that may support redevelopment and development of vacant parcels. Such low-intensity uses might include office and by appointment retail, such as for art, furniture, and for art and furniture studios. These uses would not require significant parking beyond that which is customary in a residential neighborhood and should be otherwise harmonious with neighboring parcels. Again, it goes back to the reason why we had core residential in the first place is that it abuts the city center, that those will have the similar type of businesses occupied that is adjacent to our city and our downtown district area. So the fact that we're allowing this, then be thrust in the middle of an R2 section, I think is overuse of the property.
Yeah, I'm, not to also put my cards on the table as well, but, I mean, we talked about, you know, what our priorities are in the coming year, and we're looking at, you know, 14 Mile west of Maine and how it's not, like, congruent. It's not, there's some zoning here and some zoning there, and it doesn't make sense, and now we're just going to randomly throw in something that doesn't fit the structure of that area. It doesn't make sense, and in going that deep into a residential area is concerning to me as well.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, which is again why, if we looked at for potential development to the front of the property, where it's not as invasive to the rear yards of the residential section, that's what I would like to see. Again, I am pro-development, but this is presented for core residential is too intrusive, in my opinion.
You would like to see the entire piece of property zoned office?
No, the front portion.
Front portion already is.
Yeah, well, no, it's C and D, right? So that potentially there may be residences in the front part of it.
I believe the front is O1 and the rear is R2 at this point. And you got me lost there because there's a little blue area in the front and it's all yellow in the back.
Well, again, I'm not here to, design an intent for them. Just look at what could potentially be a viable option. So, but again, if you develop the entire portion from stem to stern, right, with housing or whatever type of development, again, core residential, there's potential for businesses being used in that, the rear part of it. I don't think is appropriate. I think there may be other options where we could look at for the development of the front part of the property that may be more conducive and in line with what is already existing along Main Street.
If the property is not changed, not rezoned, if it stays the way it is right now, and if I owned it, all I could see myself doing would be putting a little commercial office in the front and using the whole back of it as a parking lot.
No, there may be other opportunities, right? Again, it doesn't, if we're looking at it for changing this zone, right, they could change it to something else that may be more conducive and cohesive with what we have down our Main Street. What that is, I don't know. We'll have to have that discussion. But the way it's presented now for core residential, I don't think it is appropriate for that parcel.
Okay. Any further comments, opinions?
Mr. Chair, could I just make a couple comments?
Sure.
So I think it's, just to clarify a couple of things, the core residential is intended to surround the downtown district, CC and CMD. This property, if it were to be rezoned, would connects to the CMD property to the south, 314 North Main Street. And then if you look at the rest of the CR districts throughout Clawson, I think, I haven't done the math, but almost every single one of them do abut to single-family residential already. And so this isn't a big change. The community, is the property itself being rezoned? Yes, but other CR districts do abut other R2 single-family districts. And I think part of the reason that we had this discussion as part of the master plan is because we knew that this was on the horizon with this church property, and what would be a valuable development at this property without being overly intensive to those neighbors. And so because single-family attached is permitted in the CR district, we felt that some type of townhome development would fit there based on the size of the building in that district compared to what is already around there. And it's just trying to find what fits here with an opportunity to redevelop it. I think it's also just important to note, generally speaking, that, you know, when we talk about what could go there, and we could sit here and talk about what could go anywhere, but it won't matter if no one wants to invest and do that development. And there is someone in front of us that has a concept to redevelop a property that's almost 2 acres in size that for the last, I think we said 50, 60 years has not provided any financial benefit to the community in the term of property taxes. And so this is one of the opportunities that we have with redeveloping this property if it were to go in this direction. So I just wanted to address some of the comments by the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chair, if I may, as far as the current CR, while they do abut R2, they are adjacent to City Center and the CMD, right? So this one is an outlier for the most part because it doesn't directly abut the City Center district. So it only abuts potentially the CMD. And what I would like to see is a continuation of the CMD and the front portion of that property. Again, that's my thought for this. And again, as far as the lack of tax revenue or benefit, the fact that, you know, it's not a knock, don't get me wrong, as far as that it's a church, right? There's benefit that it provides.
Of course, and that's why I said numerical value in that sense. I want to make it very clear, of course.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, so, and I do appreciate and understand that, right? So, but, yeah, I don't see that the intrusion into the rear setbacks of these properties is appropriate for the space. No.
Okay, this is listed as a public hearing tonight. After we open it to public again, are you expecting we're going to be voting on this to make approval? Is that the plan? It doesn't really say that.
I mean, generally, unless you're going to ask you haven't talked to the applicant yet, so unless you're going to ask the applicant to come back with more information or something, you would probably vote on it, yes.
Vote on the approval. Okay, because it is a public hearing at this point, I'll open it to public. If public wants to opine, give us more opinions on if we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Hi, Linda Hale, 940 West Selfridge. I just have a question. I would like to see it as remaining R2. As far as the 01 for the office space, I understand that you're saying that we can't get a street in there, but I'm wondering if somebody did want to develop it and make housing in there, couldn't it be like a courtyard, like Darby Court? You know, where there's a road right now that goes back to a parking lot. I mean, it's just, you know, I'm just wondering, there's got to be some alternative here. I mean, we, you know, tore down Shawm and Baker. We're putting up houses there. Couldn't they figure out something? Somebody might be creative enough to say, let's put in I don't know if it's feasible or not, but I'd like somebody to explain why we couldn't put in like a street, you know, with just a courtyard. So it's just one street in and out. I mean, if that's the issue, then think of something like that so that we could get housing in there. And, you know, as far as the office being in front of the housing, if you're going to make any kind of changes, then maybe eliminate that little spot where there's office that would block the housing and just put a street in there. It doesn't have to be a big street, just one that could go down there and maybe have houses around it. That's just my thought. I don't know if it's feasible or not, but I would like to see houses in there, real houses, and no more apartments or condos or townhouses. I would just like to see that if you're going to do something rather than add some more apartments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I will then close the public hearing part, and I would consider a motion.
I think a couple things. One, I do think you need to let the applicant speak, but two, I think just, Nick, for the purposes of the minutes, we should note that the earlier public comment applied to this item.
We can make that reflect in the minutes.
Sorry, I forgot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Andy Milley. I'm a development consultant here on behalf of Trowbridge Homes. Mr. Randazzo, the principal of Trowbridge, is here as well. I noticed there's a couple of new members in the Planning Commission, so I'd like to give a brief history of this property and then touch on a few points. As you may recall, we've been before this body 2 other times last year. The first time we were approved for this rezoning by a vote of 4-3. It was then sent on to the City Council. City Council tabled it. They wanted it sent back to the Planning Commission for additional consideration. The question was raised at the time is why didn't we get a more majority? So we went back, we made the same presentation. The majority of you were here, and we were approved at that time for recommendation by a vote of 6-1. So you've seen it before, and you voted for it and approved it before. But I'd like to just touch on a couple points because some other issues were raised tonight which are a little bit in conflict or can cause some misunderstanding. But what we're here tonight is to seek a rezoning to something that meets your master plan. We're not here for site plan approval. It's an important consideration, and that got muddled a little bit at the first city council meeting. This body and the city, if this were approved tonight for recommendation, it goes to city council, they would vote on the rezoning as well, and their vote is final. You're a recommending body. But you then get another bite of the apple, and we would review the site plan with you, and we discuss all the important components, setbacks, height, type of property. And so what's important to note is this is not site plan approval, but what Mr. Randazzo has indicated is whatever, if it is rezoned for CR, we will meet the requirements of CR. We wouldn't be asking for variances beyond that. So that's an important note. So we're strictly asking for a rezoning, which is consistent with your recently adopted master plan. I can talk about the master plan for a moment. Your master plan was recently adopted. I believe it was adopted in 2025. And there was a lot of study that went into it, and we believe that your master plan was appropriate. A master plan is a zoning tool to use for plan. It's a planning tool to use that people can figure out what this body has the foresight to say what types of development should be. So we think it was appropriately master planned, and that's one of the reasons that we acquired an option on it. This is consistent with the master plan. It's a complement to the downtown. It's a way of getting high-quality, low-intensity housing near your downtown. Many communities are envious of this downtown because you're creating a very beautiful downtown, and we're trying to add to the vibrancy of that by creating more quality housing. There's a housing crisis going on in the country. There's a housing crisis going on in the Michigan market, and there's a problem in Clawson. Housing is becoming out of reach for some people, and we're trying to meet what's called the middle market, the middle missing housing. It's for allowing young families to move into this market. It's allowing other families to downsize and stay within the market. So we think that this is a very crucial zoning a very crucial master plan that you've created, and one that meets it. What we're proposing is low intensity housing. This is not an apartment complex, as some people have suggested. That's not permitted. It was, the property is currently zoned for office and for residential. Under the office zoning, somebody could build a medical building here, and we did do a traffic study, and under a medical zoning, with a combination of medical and residential, you would have as many as 500 cars a day visiting that site. With what we're proposing, there'd be less than 250 cars. So this is actually is less intensive from a traffic standpoint, it's less intensive from a use standpoint than your current zoning. Mr. Shepherd raised some good points about you want something that's low intensive that's not infringing upon the residential. What we're proposing for a high quality housing development is very low intensive. It's not likely that anybody's going to be putting in art studios or other businesses in this. This would be a high-quality residential development. So we don't think traffic is a problem. We think that this meets the forethought that this very body had when they suggested this in the master plan. There have been a change in circumstances. The church is vacant. The church is in poor condition. The parking lot is dilapidated. Property is currently an eyesore, and this would be an improvement to the community. So we're here to ask you to reaffirm your previous two votes with a recommending to the city council. I'm also available to answer any questions.
Thank you. It's just odd the way that this whole thing has been approached to us. I'm not used to seeing it this way. You basically came in with like a proposed site plan. But it was only proposed. We didn't vote on a site plan. You just wanted to see if you could do what you're planning on doing.
It was done at the suggestion of the architect who wanted to just kind of show that we were meeting the intent of the master plan. The master plan was designed to get more high quality in this area.
Right.
But I think it was a mistake because it added some confusion to the process.
I think it had a lot of confusion.
Yeah, it added confusion, and people thought, is this too high? What are we doing with the site plan? But we want to be clear, and I think, both times that this planning commission was clear when they voted that it is consistent with the master plan, and all this is a rezoning, and you will get a bite of the apple of really dissecting a site plan when it is proposed to you.
Your proposal is showing 14 units with parking, and they're not going to exceed 30.
Again, we're not making a
Yeah, I know
proposal
you're gonna do
to.
it. I'm just saying that just for knowledge out there, this is not going to be a condominium. This is not going to be apartment complexes.
Well, it would be a townhome type development.
Townhomes, yes. So I think that's got a lot of the public concerned about that end of it. Our concern, though, is simply the rezoning of it to change it over. And my attitude is I'm in favor of rezoning it, because if we don't, the property's going to sit as it sits. I don't see any other, there's not a whole bunch of people in line want to buy this thing and develop it. So I'm in favor of changing the zoning and see what's going on. If he's going to put buildings in there and go along with all of the codes that we ask and require, I personally have no problem with it. Any questions for?
You mentioned, Mr. Chair, if I may, you mentioned 250 cars on the property?
Oh, no.
That's daily
That was
trips.
considered a traffic count. That the traffic engineers, study what's the likely traffic count for it. So doing townhome development is a very low-intensive traffic use. Doing an office building, such as it's currently zoned, there'd be people coming and going all day, later at night. Residential today, where so many people work for home, is very low-intensive. Not everybody goes to work at 7 o'clock in the morning anymore. So we believe what we're doing is consistent with what your master plan is, low-intensity housing.
Any other questions?
Yeah, where's the 250? How do you figure that?
They generally figure if you did 20 townhomes there, that you have 10 trips a day. So if somebody leaves and goes to work, the spouse leaves and go to work, that's considered 4 trips a day. So if somebody comes and goes a couple times a day, 2 cars in a household, it generally generates about 10 trips per household. Whereas an office building, you have all the workers come, all the visitors come. If it's a medical office, which could go here, you're going to have patients coming and going, all day long. So this is a lower intensity traffic than what currently exists from a zoning standpoint.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion, I believe. No motion made, no action taken, correct?
I mean, I would recommend a motion in some
Can't move on to the
capacity.
next agenda item without a motion.
Shall I make a motion and we can pull a vote on it? Would that be acceptable?
That is your prerogative as the chair.
I'll make a motion in that we accept the application for 340 North Main Street to be rezoned to core residential from office service and single-family residential. And I'm awaiting support.
Support.
We have a motion and support. May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Kucera,
Yes.
Ms. Lalonde,
No.
Mr. Nushai,
No.
Mr. Sampson,
No.
Mr. Shepard,
No.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Hale.
No.
Thank you.
Don't know where you go now, but
Thank you.
thank you. Now we move on to agenda item number 8, which is also a public hearing. Consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Article X, Section 3.1.K.2, Section 3.1.M.2, Section 4.47, Section 4.29, Section 3.1.P2, Section 4.39, and Section 4.42.
Mr. Chair, to save time, so moved.
So moved. Thank you. Someone want to translate this? To English?
If you'd like me to summarize it, I can. This is a series of kind of small amendments to the zoning ordinance. We discussed a larger set earlier, but we set some of those aside for further discussion, and we're moving forward with just this subset. So you've got a few things. One is that in the CMD district, we allow 3+ units, but not 2 units in one building. So we're just changing that to let you do 2 units in a building as well as 3, 4, 5, 6. But only on lots with local street frontage, so that we're not putting duplexes like right on Main Street or 14 Mile. But there are some areas where CMD fronts on local streets, and we're just expanding the offerings there to include 2-family dwellings as well as the larger dwellings that are already permitted. The next item is we reorganize the BRD1 district uses a little bit. Made the restaurant permission a little less restrictive, and we also added the existing single-family attached as a permitted use because there is a complex there right now that they can't do anything with in terms of improvements, and we're basically allowing what's already there to exist as a permitted use so that they can make the improvements that they need to make. And I don't know if some of you might recall that they came in to rezone that property to CMD, and that didn't go anywhere, in part because it would have allowed them to do something more intensive there. So I think this it allows them to do the maintenance and improvements that they want to do without actually allowing something different there. Section 447 is a kind of fossil in the zoning ordinance where it was the old way that we regulated communication towers before cell towers really became a thing. New standards were adopted to regulate communication towers, and this one just got left in the ordinance, so it's time to remove it because it's not really doing any work. Section 429, that was the standards for veterinary hospitals. There was a separation standard that made them have to be over 100 feet from residential, but as we know, there are not many lots in town that are over 100 feet from a residential lot. So variances have been granted multiple times for that use to be next to a residential lot. We're just basically following the trend set down by the ZBA there. Same thing with the indoor recreation uses and the auto repair uses. In the case of auto repair, we knocked it down from 200 feet to 100. But we also added veterinary clinics to the light industrial district as a permitted use because that's the only place in town where you can do a kennel. So if someone had a veterinary clinic where they wanted to do dog runs or something, they can now actually do the veterinary clinic in the same district where you can do the dog runs, because before you couldn't do them in the same district. Actually, that's it. That was all the cleanup. Yeah, because we left everything else for future discussion.
Question for him.
Go ahead.
Hey, Joe, what's the changes on the cell towers? What changes actually in that?
We didn't actually change anything as far as cell tower standards. It's just that we have this old section in the ordinance that is redundant to the larger section that governs cell towers. So there's no changes to the actual regulations for cell towers. It's just this older section that was, well, actually, I think it predates the existence of cell towers. So it talked about communication towers in more general terms, and it's a couple paragraphs long, and it doesn't really serve a purpose anymore because all of that is now covered in much greater detail under our wireless tower standards, our wireless communication standards. So we simply don't need section 447 in the ordinance anymore because it's not actually doing anything.
But it's covered under the cell tower. It's covered under the cell tower.
Exactly, it's all covered in the other section.
Questions? One point I don't see on here, on our January 27th meeting, we were discussing prohibited uses in certain districts. And
That's right, we reserve that for future additional discussion because.
It's not part of what you're talking on tonight?
Right, yeah, it was not set for a hearing. These were the only items that were set for a hearing. So we will be revisiting that discussion, but at a future date, probably the next meeting.
One point I'd like to make on that, though, is I believe I asked you if we were discussing sexually oriented business and pawn shops. And I asked if we could completely zone them out, and you said no, that we couldn't.
No, we can't.
I asked our attorney, and I got a legal opinion that sexually oriented businesses are protected by the First Amendment as a form of free speech activity. Under well-established constitutional law, a municipality cannot ban them outright. What the city can do is adopt reasonable time, place, manner restrictions as requiring minimum distances, blah, blah, blah. Pawn shops, however, do not carry the same constitutional protections. As a purely commercial land use, pawn shops can be regulated more aggressively through zoning, including being prohibited from all districts in the city if we choose to do so. So we can prohibit pawn shops.
Really?
Yeah.
That's news to me. I'll have to talk to him about that one.
Yeah, that's Rennis's legal opinion. He said he'd be happy to come here and talk to us about that.
Okay, I would like to have him here to talk about that because I've never heard that one before. But if it's true, then okay.
I had hopes that we could ban both, but apparently we can't. Okay,
Mr. Chair, I guess I do have one.
Sure.
It goes back to the conversation we had regarding the two mall properties, one being B1 and the other being B2, and trying to remain trying to get those to be consistent, and whether or not we need to do that prior to making any decision for some of these upcoming ideas.
Joe, I can probably take this one. So I don't think that affects these ordinances here that we have in front of you. And kind of jumping ahead to the staff report, next meeting we'll have more of a structured framework of attacking the master plan and the action items. And so like those are both on 14 Mile. Talk about the rezoning, not rezoning, but the restructure of those zoning districts is going to be part of that conversation. So it's certainly on the horizon that we have. So a little precursor for later in the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to specifically target this just to preempt another, but if it's part of a larger
Yes.
organized idea as far as structure, how we're going to reshape that, then that's fine. Yeah.
I think that would be our intent to present to you, and then however the planning commission wants to proceed is up to you as a body.
Okay, any further comments or questions for Joe or anything?
And we are going to need a public hearing for this, Mr.
Yeah,
Consider.
At this point, I will open it for public hearing for consideration of an ordinance to amend, do I have to read all this again?
Not for me.
Good. Thank you.
Erin Venman again. I just wanted to speak about that amendment because you guys are considering the single-family attached homes. I know I've brought it up before, but the density that is currently written for those follows the multifamily density. I would love if you guys could consider maybe looking at that further, maybe doing some type of cluster zoning for those single-family attached, so you have maybe 4 or 5 in a row, a certain amount of space between the next ones, so that we're not apartment densifying our single-family attached homes. I know it's on, to be added to other things, so please consider maybe actually putting an ordinance in that, explains the density of that in a way that's fitting to a less and dense use. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's a great point, and I'd like to know how that conforms with our preservation of green space on our lots and the development percentages. So as long as it's being considered as part of that we're not going to reduce our requirements in order to achieve that.
Sure, I get what you're saying.
Anyone else in public? Seeing none, I will then close the public hearing, and do we need to bust this and send this on to mayor and council, or?
Yep, you would be
Yes.
recommending adoption to city council.
In which case, I will take a motion.
I do have a motion from Mr. Shepherd that was supported by Mr. Nushai to basically approve as
Already have it,
presented,
so we simply have to vote on it?
if that's your wish.
We have a motion?
Yes.
Let's take roll call then.
Okay. Ms. Lalonde,
Yes.
Mr. Nushai,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Hale,
Yes.
and Mr. Kucera.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. And we'll move on to number 9, which is planner's report.
Sorry, I was just making notes. Did want to note that the National Planning Conference is actually in Detroit this year near the end of April. We'll be doing a session there. Andy and I will be both part of it. It's unusual that it's in Detroit. It moves around, every year. It's always in a different city, so it's kind of a little bit of a sort of a once in a career opportunity that's actually in our city. So I did want to mention that we'll be taking notes. If we get anything interesting out of it, we'll give you a little summary. See if we can collect some materials and things to distribute to you so that you are apprised of whatever trends we hear about at that. Nick, I swear there was something else we were going to talk about during the planner's report, and it's completely escaping me because I failed to write it down.
Mr. Kucera alluded to it earlier, the there was the sample adult uses regulations that.
Oh,
was
yes,
provided.
that's right. I did send you a sample of what those regulations look like when you go full in on them. So you can all take a look at that, just so you're aware of what those regulations tend to look like. There's like a giant list of court decisions at the beginning that basically says, here's why we're allowed to do what we're doing in this language. And you've all got that for when it comes back up at one of our upcoming meetings.
That's what all the small type was about.
Yeah, all those little, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of legal decisions that are referenced there.
3 pages of small stuff.
But yeah, it's a lot. It's not the most fun thing to talk about in a public meeting, but I thought you should at least see what one looks like from another ordinance. So that's Farmington Hills that you've got there as an example.
Thank you. That it? Thanks for the big maps for everybody, too. I think it's going to be helpful for us to look at. And then about staff training and staff report and training opportunities.
Yes, so there are copies of the zoning map and future land use map for each of you. Please feel free to take those home, larger copy to review. It might be a little bit easier to look on the computer. Totally up to you. I know it was requested, so we wanted to provide that. Another important item that is kind of becoming statewide news that just came out in the last week or so is that legislative package that is bipartisan has been discussed at the state level. As far as I'm aware, I don't think it's been officially introduced yet, but it is revolving the topic of just housing as a whole. And so some of the things that this package is considering or potentially proposing, I'm just going to read a couple of them. Establish a statewide definition of what constitutes a duplex while also allowing duplexes by right in single-family residential zones. Cap mandatory parking requirements at no more than 1 space per unit. Expand the scope of who may protest a development being built from people within 100 feet of the property's boundaries to 300 feet. Cap minimum dwelling size requirements at 500 square feet in an effort to make it easier to build smaller homes and apartments. Prohibit minimum lot size requirements of no more than 2,500 square feet for single-family homes.
It's 1,500.
1,500. It's insanely small.
1,500.
Oh, okay. Then I was misreading
No, you're right. Yeah.
the information I have. Create standards for local governments to follow when reviewing development requests, including a 60-day timeline for all decisions to be made. And then define what constitutes an accessory dwelling unit on single-family homes. So I know a lot of this would be very sweeping changes, especially to our specific zoning district. So there was language like this presented in 2024 that stalled out. There's already been some significant pushback from cities that the argument, which my personal belief is that it's true, is that they're really restricting local oversight on what each city can do. And so I think we hear about all the time that how do we fix housing in Michigan? I think this is a very drastic effort. I'm sure other people may use some other words, but I just want to make everyone aware of it if you haven't seen any of this in the news to this point. And Joe, Andy, and I will keep you updated if anything moves forward, changes, etc. But just to keep your eye on that at the state level.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if I may comment. Everybody, this is about a power grab from Lansing to take away our authority to govern our community the way that we want to. It's ridiculous, the type of legislation that they're putting forward. They had a committee meeting for the regulatory reform, and they did not have anybody who was allowed to speak who was opposed to it. This is a major, major, major problem. So I know that Nick probably can't pontificate, but certainly I can and other members within the Planning Commission. So it is very important that you let your legislators know how we as a community should be governed locally and not from Lansing. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'll agree to an extent on that, but thank you for those additional comments, Mr. Shepherd. So not anything, again, major to really update the commission on development-wise. We're getting closer to spring, which means there will be some more opportunities to see activity going on. The City Council did approve the second reading of the ground floor parking ordinance, so that is being enacted, and we may see a development with using those standards here in the future. And then the next Planning Commission meeting, which is March 10th, we, as I said earlier, will have more of a structured presentation to you about the master plan goals and objectives and deciding how we want to move forward addressing some of those items. On that agenda, we'll also look to officially memorialize the Sustainability Committee and go from there. We don't have any site plans, so it'll be very discussion-based. But Joe and I are looking to probably get some pre-application meetings scheduled with a couple interested parties on doing some new development. They kind of range in what they may be. So while we haven't had any site plans recently, I am expecting that we'll have several probably later this spring, just based on where conversation's going. So obviously that depends on when we get applications, timeline for when they get on the agenda. But again, we're expecting to pick up some steam here. But I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
No list of CFOs or any changes else?
No, and I meant to provide a link to that later. I had to get the packet done earlier than I usually do last week due to some personal matters. So hopefully, since we'll have some more time to chat next week without any action items, public hearings, maybe we can dive into that a little bit more and get some more feedback, because it'll be different from the previous two kind of boring spreadsheets. So
Just
we'll go from there.
enlarge the type size, get it up to 7 or 8 point at least.
We'll see what we can do.
Or provide us all with magnifying glasses. It's rather difficult to read that one. Is that it? Any questions for Nick?
I just had a bizarre question that's like kind of related, but not really. Like the legislation thing in Lansing, okay, is making me just question. If the state or the city or the federal government decided they wanted to purchase a parcel of land and do what they wanted with it, do they have the authority to usurp local zoning in order just by their existence?
Generally speaking, you would consider state, federal, or county development to be exempt from local zoning. So if the feds came in and wanted to put a facility in somewhere, they would typically be considered to be exempt from local zoning. Basically, the same goes for any higher level of government. A municipality also technically doesn't have to follow its own zoning. It's good practice to follow your own zoning because you're asking everybody else to. But strictly speaking, municipalities are generally held to not be subject to their own zoning, and that can include sign regulations as well. But like I said, for a municipality, it's a better look if you're following your own zoning.
If I may, are you talking about if a federal purchased property?
Romulus.
Okay. Well, it just so everybody's edification, right? So we do have what's the building on Crooks?
The Social Security Administration?
Yeah, Social Security Administration, right? So they have purchased that, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they can't stay there for very long before they need to uproot and move someplace else.
They need to move every 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't really quite understand why,
That's
but
a great
yeah.
point, because it's federal property now. They're probably due for a move at some point in time, but when they came in front of us, they did follow a site plan. So they did follow what the ordinances were for that.
But
that
they don't
portion.
have to, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, strictly speaking, they don't.
Like if feds want to
Most,
come in here and open a pawn shop or a...
hopefully the government doesn't come to that.
Just checking.
But as far as the Social Security Administration building is concerned, I think their concern most likely would have been they need to be able to offload the properties at some point. So you come in and you build a completely non-conforming building, you're creating all kinds of downstream problems for yourself when you go to sell it.
And that's part of the Westgate. So
Yeah, it is part of the Westgate.
So, all right. You've not heard anything, have you? As far as that?
No, and I'd really prefer not to start any rumors, so.
Well, they have to move, right? I mean, that's from what I recall, when they first put it in, like, how much time we have, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they used to have to move every 10 years. Maybe it's longer now, but
I don't want them to move, but just.
well,
something to think
yeah, I
about.
mean, that's the thing. You get used to being there, and all of a sudden it uproots, and now you've got to go further away.
We can do some due diligence on that to see where they are. So I'll provide an update when I have one.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, you're good, Nick?
I'm good.
No, I don't think so.
We have no legal update this evening, aside from what I read from Mr. Nushai. Does anyone else have any comments before we close?
We got a lot of emails about rezoning, and it was the neighbors over there, their concerns about people parking in the back and all that. I would suggest that if Nick could send the building department or the code enforcement, if you shut that off to keep people from driving back there, that would help. And if we get the code enforcement guy to go back there, and we have a lot of ordinances that are not followed back there, so have somebody check it out. Because there were all concerns about people being back there and the way the property looks and all that, so we could get somebody to go back there and check it out. It would
We can do that.
appease some of them people. It would have pretty good concerns.
Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion.
Support.
Yeah, we got support.
All right,
Roll call.
was that Samson Shepherd? Mr. Nushai?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
And Miss Lalonde?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.